This Houston Texans team preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is giving away $15 million in Best Ball Mania 5. Sign up with promo code SGPN to claim your first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm's college football and NFL projections are now live. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Hey folks, it's Rex Burkhead. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Cox. He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Kramer?
Dog. Maybe I should have come with some poetry about Andre Johnson, Matt Schaub, Arian Foster, the good old days.
Yeah, your old team, Ryan.
Houston Tech. Well, you know what it is. I look back, and some of the teams I have adopted over the years are it's purely just because they're like a animal on the streets. No one liked the Texans. So I had to come and protect them, swoop in.
They had some rough times,
and now they're the toast of the town. I don't know what to do.
They are. I looked back, and of course, last year, updating the taking a look at what we had win total wise. Kramer, you were the optimistic one. We had Munaf on, where you were going to be joined by him in just a bit. I had the under. You had the over. Their win total was 6.5. They smashed that over, going 10-7.
Well, and if you scroll down, you'd also see that I had the holy trinity of futures bets. Was invested in the coach of the year, the offensive rookie of the year, the defensive rookie of the year,
and the offensive defensive rookie of the year hit. And
I should have gotten them all.
Almost coach of the year.
Should have I feel like I should have knocked all of them.
Yeah, and I do feel like I remember you trying to parlay those, finding a spot that in Vegas that would let you parlay those. Ryan, little trivia for you.
I also had John Mechie comeback player of the year, so there was a fourth leg that didn't hit.
How many teams in the NFL since 1967 had both offensive and defensive rookie of the year?
Since what year?
1967. Wow. How many teams?
The way that you frame it makes me want to game theory this and say 0, but I think it's been 1.
This is the 4th team since 1967. Damn. Jets did it in 2022. I almost forgot the Jets.
Sauce and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and then they were still really bad.
I got to be honest. The awards stuff exits my brain as soon as it has. Like when I go back and look every year when we break down the awards markets and see who's won it before, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
It is. Yeah, it's tough for me to retain that.
I'm not a black suit guy, like the award show thing is
I saw you wearing a tuxedo, Ryan, not on Friday night.
I was raving about it the entire time too. Just sweating my ass off.
Yeah. Tuxedo in Vegas in the summer is intriguing for me.
And we went to a after party that was literally like Legacy Club, beautiful place when it's not 105 degrees at midnight. But just sitting outside, and they had the fire pit turned on for some reason.
Even at the party started at 11 o'clock at night, so even at 1 o'clock in the morning, it was still pretty hot. Luckily, we had the AC going, blasting in the other part of the Legacy Club portion. But yeah, good times there, and of course, the phrase that pays. We are revealing one word per episode of the phrase that pays. The Texans episode is the word my. Also, if
my Texans.
Yes, like my Texans. Also, if you did, protest listening to the Cowboys episode, that word is and. So I will give that away for free. Even though technically you should have listened to it, but you could just download it and not actually listen to it. Easy pointed out, I feel like Kramer has been a fan of half the league at this point. Well, Easy, when you don't have a team, when you're a fan of the New York Giants, you gotta pick other teams, other fan bases to support and get invested in. So for Ryan, we'll see. It feels like this year it's his Titans. I'm also big on the Titans. Liked what I saw early Titans preseason action. But getting it back to the Texans, a couple of interesting nuggets here. 110 teams have exceeded their win total by at least 3 wins in the prior season. Only 38% went over the win total the next season from 2000 on. That to me is the only reason to be cautious or a little worried about this Texans team is the hype, right, Ryan? I mean, CJ Stroud, as predicted, most bet MVP money wise. They come in with Super Bowl expectations, which is a lot for a quarterback in his second year. But then, I mean, you watch CJ Stroud, hard to find a lot of stuff not to like. Their luck kind of broke both ways. They were 7-3 in 1-score games, so maybe that comes down to earth a little bit. But they did have bad injury luck, especially with the offensive line. The +10 turnover differential, that does kind of scream regression. They decided to add Stefon Diggs, who kind of a known locker room cancer.
Yeah, I mean, you can't keep pushing this narrative.
What do you mean?
I don't think he's a known locker room cancer. I think you speculated there might have been some bad vibes in Buffalo
and Minnesota, 2 teams that like went out of their way to get rid of him. To me, that's a sign you're not fitting in.
That's fine. I don't know if he's a locker room cancer though.
Okay.
A lot of positive things being said about Diggs and his leadership coming down to Houston.
I mean, these first couple months.
I'm just
sure.
saying.
And let's talk about December.
We're in the first couple months.
Let's talk about December when he's not getting his touches.
You're talking about year 3, year 4 of a situation where he gets disgruntled.
Yeah, I guess also too for the Texans, and maybe smartly so, they did rework his contract, so it is a contract year. Also last year,
Well, that's what he wanted. He got what he wanted. Why would he be unhappy?
These guys find reasons to be unhappy. Remember how him and Josh were best friends? I love you, bro. I love you, bro. And then they ran him out of town. Last year, also Texans, besides playing, a last place schedule, they did have all 1 p.m. East games. So a very kind of like the best situation, good roster around him. But at the end of the day, CJ Stroud is a good quarterback. D'Amico Ryans, I think, is a good head coach. They bring in Danielle Hunter, which certainly adds to Will Anderson making a jump maybe at the defensive line. They have some pretty decent cornerbacks on the back end there. So it's weird. The only thing that's scaring me off behind the Texans is everyone being on the Texans and the hype train surrounding it, and how they exceeded expectations so much last year.
You keep bringing that trend up. It's hard to
do that back-to-back years.
Yeah, you keep bringing that overperformance trend up. This feels very much like that's what we're talking about, right?
That's the only thing that would scare me. Yeah.
Well, you also have had the handicap this entire offseason about, this team was pretty close to not reaching the playoffs. And then if they don't reach the playoffs because they haven't won the division, do they win? Does CJ Stroud win Rookie of the Year over Puka? Do we have a revisionist history there?
Well, yeah. If Minshew completes a couple of those passes in that last game, what is the view of this Texans team, right? I don't think we would be talking CJ Stroud MVP. Maybe. I mean, he was a quarterback who won Offensive Rookie of the Year, so there's always going to be a little steam. But I think the way they destroyed that Cleveland Browns team, and clearly Joe Flacco running on fumes on that last game, and they were leading the Ravens at halftime. Now a lot of that was because of that kick return for a touchdown, but you could also look at it the other way of like, hey, when they went up against the Ravens in Baltimore, they really struggled to move the ball offensively, and maybe this offense isn't quite there yet.
A lot of things hit, right? It was a new system, which positive. It was a new, what the hell's going on here? It was a new a lot of things last year. And I think they have to take a step back. I think you see it mostly in the markets where, all right, point spreads, they're favored in a ton of games. Those little point here, point and a half there, those add up in a strange way.
Well, and also too, the DVOA wasn't dominant. It was 12th, right? And they were 14th offense, 16th defense. saying the offense makes a little step up, I can believe it. Defense maybe the same. The turnover margin being +10, that I think will be a little tough to sustain. And Stroud missed a couple games, but only throwing 5 picks.
Well, honestly,
is that sustainable?
What we've learned about DVOA is that would fully expect the defensive DVOA to take a step back. I understand. I mean, you had a complete system overhaul, and what happened? They hit to the tune of a league average defense. If they take a step back, I mean, that's the other thing. The offense is MVP candidate CJ Stroud. Where did this offense finish last year at DVOA? Right in the middle of the pack, which was a pretty big upgrade. And so let's take what we've learned from DVOA over the years and say, okay, offense stays fairly consistent year to year. Whatever regression happens to CJ Stroud, they have the second year of continuity, and we say the offense stays right around the middle. Maybe even like creeping up to top 10. But the defense creeps back to 20, 21, 22, which is very normal for a defense, especially a new one that showed up and had some success. Then what is this team? They're on the fringe of making the playoffs. Is that what they're being projected to be in the market? Absolutely not. They're way above that. And so it's a pretty easy, for me, it was pretty easy to kind of walk down the path of like, I like the Texans. I like some of the players on the Texans, but I absolutely think let's go back to the Bears. Let's go back to the Falcons, just teams that are overrated this year. And again, like we can probably bring up the players cause that's the key
additions, key losses.
That's the
draft.
That's the main thing is you also layer in, you have a plus EV offense now.
Yep.
You bring in a guy like Joe Mixon, bring in a guy like Steph Diggs that even if you're not like Sean hates him, doesn't think he's a positive, but I think most people see it as addition. A ton of defensive pieces for D'Amico Ryans to continue
Danielle
to build that
Hunter. I feel like again, not maybe a signing that enough people are talking about.
So yeah, I mean, I certainly think. And shout out to producer Josh, little Stadium Swim plug. His horse that he named after Stadium Swim just came in second. Digital Pony. So shout out to producer Josh. Stadium Swim coming in second in a major. But look at everything they did here. And again, they do seem to be intentfully bringing in types of players that are going to fit the system.
Yeah.
And so yeah, again, kind of was difficult for me to have a negative slant other than when I started looking at what this team actually was last year. And I think they're a team that was remembered in a much higher regard than they actually were because of the surprise of the Texans being good, because of the surprise of CJ Stroud being the guy, because of the surprise of the defense being pretty serviceable immediately. And so, yeah, we'll see a lot of turnover though. Always interesting when you have new culture. We've seen this before, right? Like my Giants and the mood after a playoff win and how quickly that can shift with a couple bad things to happen early in the season. And so to me, I think it's very fair to make this comparison. I know people will argue with me because CJ Stroud is in the conversation, but why is this that different than this Giants team? People were talking about how the roster was pretty bare. No. Seriously, the roster for the Texans was pretty bare going into last year. They hit on a number of things, and their projection goes massively up. You can remove the idea that it's the Giants. Just any team that has that success in year one.
I get it
on a relatively like a roster that people weren't complimenting going into the year.
Yeah, I think the difference is no one was talking Daniel Jones MVP candidate. After that season, I think D'Amico Ryans better head coach, and I do think they've put together
based on what though for D'Amico Ryans. It was a similar level of success. You overperformed a team that wasn't supposed to be that good, and so yeah, I hear you. Like your negative bias towards the Giants aside, input a different team here, and it's like you have a coach that's easy to get behind.
Yeah, and the quarterback. I think the quarterback's obviously the massive difference, and I think what they've done defensively, like they had the defensive rookie of the year, Will Anderson. They signed, Danielle Hunter. They have a pretty decent roster, and I think D'Amico Ryans does a good job of coaching them up. And I like what they do offensively. So I think they're I think people who said their roster was thin last year was wrong. I think, and they have a bunch of young guys that it's easy to project making a jump from year 1 to year 2. Like the guys impacting the Giants last year weren't, or when they had that season where they stuck into the playoffs and then beat that Vikings team on the road, it wasn't.
Oh, in hindsight, you can apply additional thought, but I'm just saying, in the moment we're in right now, there was extreme optimism. Things are looking good in the preseason, even. I get it. You can be more bullish on the offensive structure. You can be more bullish on the quarterback. But where were you on CJ Stroud even before the draft last year? Like no one was at this level on CJ Stroud.
Oh, I thought he was good. Yeah,
but no one thought he would
be this good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is it possible he just had an amazing first year where, by the way, he threw for 4,000 yards. It's not like he was on the edge. I understand he was a rookie, but I really shocked at how even my memory was altered with this Houston Texans team. CJ Stroud looks like he's going to be a good player. I'm definitely pumping the brakes on him being an MVP candidate.
Yeah, the hype is probably a little too far, but
Brock Purdy looks good in this system too, Sean. Jimmy G looks good in this system. Sam Darnold would have looked good in this system.
Yeah, but I like CJ Stroud, the guy.
What about him?
He's he strikes me as a leader of men. I mean, he looks super poised and confident in the pocket. When he does interviews, he seems extremely knowledgeable with the game of football. Like you feel when you bet on the Houston Texans, you feel like you're in decent shape knowing CJ Stroud is back there.
Yeah, I don't know if he's. Yeah, I can see it, but I also see a guy that keeps referencing his time at Ohio State. I also see a guy who.
Yeah, it's a good example. He played on a big stage and delivered.
Sure.
Which I don't think applies to some of those other guys who had sophomore slumps.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean,
the similarities between CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence are fairly.
Oh, I disagree. I mean,
if anything, Trevor Lawrence is given more credit of his pedigree than CJ Stroud was, but I think you have a situation where, yeah, I would be surprised if CJ Stroud took a huge step forward this year. That would be my take.
Okay.
I think the ceiling is there, but I absolutely think there's a tremendous amount of reasons why, like, if this team is the same team they were last year and even take small steps forward, that they're not the same team on the field.
Yeah. I think they could actually take some slight steps up in how they are as a team and still end up 10-7. I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I'm with you. I'm not getting down on CJ Stroud MVP. Underdog Fantasy. If you signed up with Underdog Fantasy, if not, what are you waiting for? Use that promo code SGPN. Get you a sweet deposit match up to $250 in bonus cash. Get down on some season long pick 'em, higher and lower. So fun there. And then of course the the in-game stuff is awesome. They do preseason stuff, MLB, NFL, college football. The college football season long higher lower is available for Underdog. So of course underdogfantasy.com, promo code SGPN. Get in and get signed up today. Support the SGPN, support yourself. Good great product there. We also have Circus Sports Stadium Swim giving away. It was not Stadium Swim. Circus Survivor, $10 million in guaranteed prizes. Circa Million, $6 million in guaranteed prizes. Awesome time. Come out, hang out at Ultimate Contest Weekend, August 22nd through the 24th. $16 million given away in guaranteed prizes. Enter in Nevada, play from anywhere, and of course, such a good time. Use our proxy.footballcontest.com. Use our promo code SGP. Get your $50 there off your proxy fees, and of course promo code SGP 15% off August 22nd through the 24th. Get all the details, all the information over at circusports.com. Joining us on the line, host on the NBA Gambling Podcast, MLB Gambling Podcast, the Propcast, Munaf the Machine Manji. What's happening, Munaf?
What's going on, guys? I don't think I would have seen the day after all the turbulence of the Texans being a favorite in the division here, but here we are. And I'm pretty sure there's not an episode that goes by that every quarterback has to be compared to Daniel Jones, but here we are.
Ryan does.
My intent was not to compare CJ Stroud to Daniel Jones.
Oh, okay.
I do think there are similarities between this Texans team and any team that overperforms, gets into the playoffs, and leaves a better taste in people's mouths than maybe they are as an actual unit. This was a team that was bottom of the league in DVOA in both categories, both offense and defense 2 years ago. And so to see them buoy all the way up to middle of the pack in both areas just gives me some pause that like, will they sustain on both sides of the ball?
Munaf, how are you? Are you worried? Are you worried about the hype surrounding your Houston Texans?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I do think a second-year guy. Look, CJ Stroud was incredible last year. There's no question, right? In the 15 games that he did play last year, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year as well with Will Anderson. But I think you guys have said the theme there. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. You guys know I'm a little bit more cautiously optimistic, as the word I should say, for this Texan team. But look, they've made all the right moves over the past several seasons to turn this team at least into a type of a contender. But for CJ Stroud to be a top 3 odds-on favorite for MVP, I need to see him. I don't want to say duplicate, but be more consistent going into year 2. Because look, they did add some fun new toys on the offensive side for this Texans team. But there's also the fact now you're also going to be playing a first place schedule, and when you play those tougher teams, how does CJ Stroud and the defense, more importantly, show up in those games? So obviously, better times are ahead for this Texans team, but a lot of it does rest on the shoulders of CJ Stroud.
Yeah, and the turnover differential, that seems like it could come crashing down. So yeah, I think my overall handicap is, hey, you're going to have a tougher schedule. Maybe you're not going to be as fortunate with the turnovers. Sure. Maybe you're not going to be as fortunate with the 1-score games. Maybe you do get a couple breaks with all the guys you lost on the O-line there. With injuries and stuff like that, maybe you catch a couple of breaks that way. And then maybe CJ Stroud does improve slightly from his rookie year, but maybe ends up throwing a couple more picks. I think they could be ultimately a little better team, but end up with like a similar record, similar results because they're playing a tougher schedule. They do have, they did get by the skin of their teeth in a handful of games. Someone who got knocked out of Circus Survivor because of CJ Stroud on the road against the Bengals. That, stuff like that. Will that be able to happen coming forward or, continuing?
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think there's more question marks on the defensive side. I know we'll talk about here in a minute, but I think this offense, they went out and got Joe Mixon. They got out, Stefon Diggs for 1 year. We'll see if they re-sign him when he's going to be an unrestricted free agent next year. But they've made the right moves here. But now, can you duplicate when you play tougher competition going forward now with DeMeco Ryans as the head coach now for this team?
Well, that's certainly a big narrative too. Like schedule difficulty takes a jump up.
Yeah.
I was even going back to look last year. I mean, you talk about they did have a ton of injuries on the offensive line, but they were still able to land 22nd in adjusted line yards. So maybe that scheme, but I think the thing to caution is if the scheme's already upgrading the performance of the line, if everyone's healthy, it doesn't mean that the jump is going to be what you think it is. And I think on the pass blocking side, same kind of thing. Like they were serviceable. You can give CJ Stroud, I think, some credit on that regard. But I think that's actually one of the areas where the offensive line should clearly be better if they're able to stay healthy. I don't know if that necessarily makes them a much better team though. Because again, I think when you dive into the line yards and some of the defensive numbers, that's where I think they maybe overshot their performance doesn't match. The performance on the field doesn't match what the numbers tell you. And like Munaf saying, the much more difficult schedule, more difficult quarterback opponents. We'll be curious to see how that goes.
Yeah, let's take a look at the odds and then hop in on the schedule for the Houston Texans.
I will say the one thing I keep reading over and over again is how Aziz. Everyone just says Aziz is a dog. Aziz Al-Shire just seems like that seems to be a very positive, whether it's locker room piece or like extension of DeMeco Ryans. I've heard listening to other coaches, not even all defensive coaches, just saying, "Oh yeah, Aziz a dog." That does concern me a little bit.
Win total sits at 9.5. Make playoffs -188. Nice size favor for the Texans to make the playoffs. Miss playoffs +152. Division +105. Conference 8-1. Super Bowl 15-1. All right, Ryan, let's hop into the schedule. What do we got here?
Well, I will be honest. I was mentioning the slight over-ranking or overrating this team and where it shows up. Well, they're just a little bit extra of a favorite in almost every game. It feels like, starting off at Colts, so we know what to do in that game. The flow chart tells us the Colts cannot win in week 1, so we have to give the Texans this victory. Then we have the Bears on Sunday Night Football, then a trip to Minnesota in the dome up there, and then the Jags. Florida game early in the year. Are we classifying that one, Sean?
Well, it's at home, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's in Houston.
Yeah.
Never mind. So a lot of 3.5 point favorites that I'm sure we're going to be really painfully looking at as I got
take the 3.5s, right?
No,
sorry, lay the
not
3.5
in these spots though. This is a nice start for them.
Good schedule start. I mean, if they're 4-0, I'm not surprised. I think they can handle this Vikings team. I love the matchup of D'Amico Ryans versus Sam Darnold. Shout out to JJ McCarthy. Hopefully he plays the 5 games needed to qualify for the underdog season long lower that I have a lot of exposure to, and maybe he does. Like, knock on wood, they trot him out there for like the last 6 or 7 games. So yeah, I think 3-1 and 4-0 to me is in the realm of possibility. I think that Colts game should be a good game, and then I don't trust this Jags team on the road. Maybe they lose one between the Jags and the Colts, because those are division games, but I feel good about the other couple spots. Kramer, what are you doing here? Even as the Texans hater, I did not see this coming.
But the flow chart's weird in the AFC South, so the games will be getting chopped. But I kind of think the Jags. I think the Jags beat them in Houston last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think the flow chart might even tell us we like the Jags in Houston. Double check that. Yeah, they lost to the Jags 21-24 last year. Week 12. Week 12. Yeah. So I guess I'll go 3-1.
3-1, even for the hater. Swagger Hound and Easy got him 4-0. Japan, a little more cautious at 2-2.
What do you mean hater? Just bringing up objective cases as to why CJ Stroud should.
You're
not
calling
be.
them this year's New York Giants. I was listening to the earlier segment. Munaf.
Oh, I think there's definitely a chance they could have a disappointing season as the Giants did after that playoff run.
Munaf, what do you got?
Yeah, I got 3-1. I think you talked about that week 1 game against the Colts. Usually take division dogs week 1. Immediate revenge for the Colts as well. I'm gonna go 3-1.
Yeah, it's that trend versus the Colts cannot win.
Yeah, that's true too.
And maybe it's they lose by the Texans end up winning by 1. Colts cover the spread and don't win. They're so bad. Game 1.
Is it after the year 2014?
Yes.
If so, then we have to fade the Colts on week 1. That's
I know.
That's the trend.
I'm just not going to be able to do it.
A decade of dominance. They have tied before. That's
yes. Oh, I know.
A couple years back, or was that last year? Well, that was 2 years ago.
2 years.
Yeah, that's when the Titans and Giants played, and me and Terrell were hugging afterwards.
I do remember.
All right, Buffalo Bills week 5, then at Patriots, at Packers, and then you got the Colts at home. I think the Colts are gonna beat them in their house, so we're still getting the split. I think the Bills. More that I'm getting into this Bills team, Sean, the more that I'm into the Bills this year.
Really?
I think so. It could just be Josh Allen love affair, and I think the Packers road trip's going to be a tricky one for them. Even though I'm not super high on the CJ Stroud and Jordan Love. Now those are fair comparisons. Not quite ready to say that they're there, but everyone else is. So I would say 1-3.
Wow. I got them 2-2. I agree. This Packers, at Lambeau is never an easy spot. A non-conference game with the division game looming. I do like their chances against the Patriots. And I think between the Bills and the Colts, they get 1 win, and I think they beat the Patriots. So
you're right though. That the Bills stretch is tricky there. That's the middle game of a 3-game road stretch for them. That just strikes me as a game.
No matchup wise, I could see them matching up decently against them. And It didn't back in the day, Josh Allen wasn't one of his first playoff games down in Houston. I have a memory of him like when he like did some crazy lateral. Wasn't that against the Texans back in the day?
And maybe we should ping Adam about that one.
Bill's expert. I'll go 2-2. I think 2-2 is reasonable. Munaf, what do you got?
Yeah, week 5 is going to be that revenge game for Stefon Diggs. So circle that one on your calendar.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go 2-2. I do like the fact that we do get the Patriots and at least I should say Green Bay earlier in the year versus it being super cold if they went there in December. But I'll go 2-2 here as well. I think they'll split with the Colts here and then lose either one of the Bills or the Packers. So 2-2 for me.
Good point. I was reading some camp reports about the joint practice between the Eagles D line and the Patriots O line, and my God, the Patriots offensive line sounded really bad. I mean, maybe the Eagles D line is that dominant. I think Eagles D line will be good, but I think also the Patriots offensive line really bad. So I could just see the Texans really putting in some work there. So yeah, 2-2 for Munaf and I. Ryan 1-3.
So I'm at 4-4.
Yep.
All right. Then we got at Jets on Thursday night. It's always tricky to travel across the country. Thursday night, short week. After a division game that they might be losing. We'll see. Then you have the Lions on Sunday Night Football. Then you have the at Cowboys on Monday Night Football, just rolling out the primetime games for the Houston Texans. And then we got the first matchup against our Tennessee Titans, Sean.
Yeah.
In week 12. Still no bye week to be seen for this Texans team. I guess you're not too concerned because you're feeling yourself right now.
I think it's a decent bye week for them, week 14, because 3 of their toughest games on the schedule arguably come. I mean, maybe the Bills in there, but yeah, like you want that bye week late before you get some of these tougher matchups, I think. But their schedule is pretty tough in general. I mean, even this stretch, road Thursday night, always a tough spot. Lions at home Sunday night. I think that the Lions having a good offensive line. I
Lions are coming off the Packers game.
That could be a little letdown. So like Dallas sucks, as we know. Ryan and I have them projected 3-14, so that's a win for you guys. But Titans, I think, are going to be friskier than people believe. This feels to me, if we guarantee a victory over the Cowboys, I'll go 2-2. I think this is just a tough run.
I think I need you to switch my last one to 2-2.
Oh, look at Ryan coming around.
Because this is 1-3.
This is 1-3. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
this is the tough stretch
with 2 home games. All right.
Yeah, with 2. Well, I think the Lions can beat them. Lions, I think, could be a very, very good team this year. All right. Final 5.
Well, we have to get Munaf.
Oh, I thought that was him agreeing.
Munaf, what do you got?
1-3. I think 1-3 for me. That Jets spot,
wow.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough spot coming off that division game. They'll beat Dallas. I think that Lions game is going to be tough, but yeah, I'll go 1-3 here.
There's 2 type of fans. The fan that wants to like set the bar really low so that if they go over it, they're super excited. Or the fan who thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl every year. Munaf clearly not the fan that thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl every
Texans
year.
have been tough for a while.
Yeah, not a lot of Super Bowls in the Texans trophy case, but there's time, Munaf.
We'll get there. We have time.
That's some crazy trash talk.
All right,
we'll get there.
At Jags, I did given the road games away here, so that's a win. Then we have a late bye week, so I think this is good if you're gearing up for the playoffs.
Yes,
yeah.
I think it's probably too late if things have gone south. Dolphins coming off the bye, then at Chiefs, then Ravens on Christmas /Netflix, and then at Titans. Which I do have them losing the Titans game, winning the Jags game, and then I want to say like this is the kind of game that the Dolphins can win on the road.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're playing the Dolphins late in the year,
schemes.
You want to be in a cold weather spot, but they are coming off a bye, so I think that's helpful. I don't know about at Jacksonville. I wouldn't be shocked if they. Well,
I believe the flow chart likes the road game.
Okay, so they
do really well in Jacksonville for whatever reason,
but Jacksonville does well in Houston.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it's tough to get more than 2 guaranteed victories here, right? I mean, because at Chiefs, outdoors going to be super freaking cold.
That's when they're trying. That's when the good plays start coming out.
Yeah, Chiefs will be trying to get into the playoffs or get a top seed, I'm sure.
And that's a Saturday game, the Chiefs game.
Okay, and then Ravens Christmas Day, is that Wednesday?
Wednesday.
It's a quick turnaround.
Saturday
That's tough.
to Wednesday, but
Massively hard stretch here.
the huge difference is you are at home for the Christmas game, which I think is obviously huge, and you don't have to go outside to Baltimore.
Is that good or bad? Do you want to be around the house where like the wife can still send you out on some errands?
Well,
like,
I think
you want to be away from home
because it's a Wednesday game and you're playing on Saturday. I think, I definitely think you do.
Okay, so we should treat that like a Thursday game.
Yeah, I would treat it as a Thursday home game because they're coming off Saturday game at Kansas City. Now that's a tough game to
Plus,
come
if
off
Lamar has a Christmas dinner, he's going to be shitting himself. He'll be missing a half.
Well, Lamar almost certainly will have COVID. After some family gatherings, the guy gets. I mean,
Baltimore also coming off a game against Pittsburgh.
yeah. So that the more we break that down, I think that's a decent spot. But you have 3 road games. 1 at Division 1 at Chiefs, or sorry, 2 division, 1 at the Chiefs. I'll say 2 and 3. I don't know. Can I get him to 3 and 2? Munaf, what are you doing here?
I like 3 and 2 here. I like the fact that what you mentioned, that home game against Baltimore on Christmas Day. It's a quick turnaround. I mean, that's tough. Possibly going up against 2 best teams in the AFC there, in the Chiefs and then the Baltimore. But I think they get the 2 division games. Just a number here for you guys. Texans 8-1 straight up, 7-2 against the Jags in Jacksonville since 2014. So I'll go 3 and 2 here.
And it's an interesting schedule quirk because the Christmas falls on a Wednesday and you have the Texans Ravens and the Chiefs Steelers. You essentially get the same batch of teams in prime time the Saturday before, just playing different opponents. And so we'll get a nice amount of CJ Stroud, Lamar, Justin Fields. So yeah, anyway, and Patrick Mahomes in prime time. Yeah, I mean, you got to give them two wins, right?
At least 2. I mean, I'm debating 2 and 3 because the Ravens spot is a good spot for them.
Yeah, they win that one. They win the Jags one. So where's the third one? Is it the Miami game?
I think it's Tennessee at the end of the year because it's almost extended rest there because they don't play until that following. You have almost 10, 11 days off.
And if they, as much as I love the Titans, if the Texans need that game for them to have that nice mini bye, possibly into a must-win situation for their playoff lives. Yeah, I'll go 3 and 2.
I just realized I had the Dolphins, I had the Dolphins lose this game. So.
Ryan, what are you doing? 3 and 2. Okay, so Ryan's 3 and 2. And once again, Ryan so this time I'm the I was the pessimist with Munaf last year, getting him to 10 and 7. Munaf has him going under 9.5 wins at 9 and 8. Kramer under 9.5 wins at 9 and 8.
I think that's the right side.
Yeah, I mean, I like being at 10 wins with this team. I'm not going to be betting.
Can I give you my final AFC South division prediction?
Sure. Yes. What is your final? What are your rankings?
Indy is 8 and 9.
Okay.
Jacksonville and Houston are 9 and 8. And you guessed it, the Tennessee Titans 10 and 7.
Yeah. So
I feel like I nailed it without any planning. I got it exactly how I wanted to.
Well, and we gave it out, Ryan. It's worth going back, and we'll talk about some futures we like. But if you remember from the Titans episode, I stumbled upon
lots of fun bets.
Yes.
Which hopefully, real quick PSA on the division. Get your Will Levis most passing yard props in. We spoke about it at Bet Bash, so we're ruining the number all over the country.
Yeah, I mean it's
30 to 1 at DraftKings.
So Ryan, I forget what episode it was in the AFC South, but
what are you looking for?
AFC South to have the most wins. That was like 13 to 1. And I think, everyone is talking about the
14 to 1. We
14.
gave it out on the Jags episode.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. 14 to 1 AFC South to have the most wins, because if you like the Titans, I think it's easy to imagine most of these teams kind of being competitive.
What's 9 plus 9 plus 10 is 28. plus 7.
Yeah.
Okay, so 35. That's right in the mix. I would imagine the line for division, like most wins in a division, is right around that number. What did the North have last year? Like, so that's probably good benchmark.
So the North last year had 43.
Okay, so you're a little off the pace there, but that also was an extreme outlier year.
Yeah, I mean Bengals were last place with 9.
And AFC South's one of the longer shot teams. And I was tipped that you can. I think one of the spots out in Vegas, maybe Boyd or Stations, you can find a 20-1 on that same prop.
Oh, nice. Well, shout out to Line Shopping.
We got people everywhere.
We'll talk our favorite bets before we do that. Of course, hopefully you guys have signed up with Rhythm. Rhythm is your home for some of the best modeling around. It's always good to have a data component to your handicapping game, and it's really cool. You can build your own custom models, selecting the stats you like, the stats that matter to you, and Rhythm will build a model and then show you how that model has performed over the years. If you just want to use their models, you can have that option as well. College football, NFL week 1 stuff is already available, sides and totals for the Rhythm system. Props coming soon, as we know. WNBA is back in session. They've been killing it with WNBA and with golf. All that and much more at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm to claim your free 7-day trial. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. So Kramer, you're on the under 9.5 wins. What else is jumping out at you for this Houston Texans team?
Well, I want to bring something up because we often discuss compare markets. Will Anderson and Munaf, how do you pronounce it? Is it Danielle Hunter or Danielle Hunter?
I've heard it both ways. I think it's majority of saying Danielle Hunter.
All right. 35-1 for Hunter to win Defensive Player of the Year. 20-1 for Anderson to win Defensive Player of the Year. But we hop over to the most sacks market. Hunter 15-1 to have the most sacks. Will Anderson 40-1 to have the most sacks.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take a sprinkle on Will Anderson most sacks at 40-1.
What, that seems like what you do with that kind of information. I guess I understand him coming off Defensive Rookie of the Year. Like it's a little easier to get behind a narrative based thing. But I didn't quite understand the pricing difference, because if you feel that way about Hunter, obviously he's taken action. That's why his price is down there. Why are we not also playing the Defensive Player of the Year for Hunter at 35-1? Yeah. Meanwhile, as far as the Anderson, I don't know. I don't know what I like better. You're probably right to take the sacks, because you probably need sacks to win Defensive Player of the Year, and you can probably get the most sacks and still lose to a guy like TJ Watt.
I'll take the most sacks at 40-1. It's a fun, and I wouldn't be surprised if Houston's playing in front in some of these games. I think the 10-7 is probably them not being as fortunate in some of these close games. Maybe a couple turnovers not going their way late. Like we see this all the time, where just the shit balances out to some degree. The +10 turnover differential, to me, is the biggest reason to be a little sour on them. Not completely out on them, but I think it will have an impact on their ceiling, at least in my mind.
Yes.
Any other futures jumping out at you, Ryan?
Well, yeah, I'm going to continue down.
Sure.
You just mentioned some turnover regression. CJ Stroud certainly going to be slinging the rock this year. Is it possible that we end up in a season where if the defense maybe isn't as great, where CJ Stroud is up there in attempts in the league? He had a lot of games last year. If you look at his game log, where he, 44 starting off the season, actually 44, 47 attempts. And then they kind of went to run the ball. And then CJ Stroud said, "Hey, I want to throw the ball more." And then it was 42, 39, 37, 36. Anyway, you get the point. Most interceptions, 40-1. Put me down.
Wow.
His interception rate was incredibly low last year. We saw what he is capable of in that Arizona game when he went for 3 interceptions. Again, if things are a little bit more volatile on the defensive side of the ball, he's being relied on a little bit more. And to your point, you get a alpha receiver chirping at you on the sideline, like, "Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball." All right. I mean, no, you're not going to co-sign that one with me.
No, I mean, I see the case. Yeah, just a no for me. I think. I think he's gonna have more than 5, but I don't think he's gonna have. Like, the guy to me seems too smart. as far at the quarterback position to throw that many interceptions.
But he didn't do well on that cognitive test, Sean.
Yeah, and the guy basically put a test out of business. Like CJ Stroud, the fact that he did bad on that test. Did you hear anyone mention the S2 test in this past draft class? It's like, no, because CJ Stroud had such a good year and made that test look so shitty. They like stopped mentioning it.
Some people are just aren't good at taking tests.
Yeah. Also, maybe an overreaction. I mean, there wasn't a problem with this test until CJ Stroud and Bryce Young came along, and it was just I would so looking last year, 14th in attempts, CJ Stroud, and he only played 15 games, so he certainly has
the volume 100%. What, Ryan? You've had some optimism about Joe Mixon. Kind of being interesting. Is there any Joe Mixon most rush yards?
Keep going down the list.
What do you got?
We've talked about it before, but the Joe Mixon rush touchdowns. I think if you're going to play into a market, it's the Shanahan rushing scheme. Bobby Slowick rolling it out. Joe Mixon certainly going to be the goal line guy. Maybe they do rely on the run more. Certainly contradicts what I was saying about the interceptions a little bit, but I do like the idea of Joe Mixon in this offense. We haven't discussed it a bunch. Whether or not he can stay healthy, I don't know. But you can play the ceiling case. I also would not mess around with yards with him. If I'm doing anything with him, it's like let's bank on maybe a 5 touchdown game. Remember that head-to-head Joe Mixon Saquon Barkley action I had with Justin Wood from
yes.
Tune into the Bengals pod. I think it's gonna be on Sunday or Monday morning. But just 5 touchdown game. Maybe you get a little bit lucky there, and then also you're going to want to hop over, and if you can gain access to the division specials, Sean.
Yeah,
we've been hammering those.
But most rushing yards in the division,
they don't have what I was going to say is they don't have the touchdown market.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not playing yards markets. Because he's plus 280 compared to Jonathan Taylor minus 135.
I don't like that. I mean, 25 to 1's way more fun. But to your point, I see Mixon more as a touchdowns guy. But
I have like 4 or 5 most rushing touchdown bets, and I think he might be the shortest price.
Yeah, I think we've done a decent job, I think, of identifying. Hey,
take that back. Breece Hall is the shortest price.
This guy is going to get a ton of the inside the 5 carries, and I just don't see who else they're going to be pounding. Easy in the chat tossing out Texans most team sacks 17-1. How
nice.
say you, Munaf? Is that something you're hopping on?
Yeah, I think obviously when you're led by D'Amico Ryans as a defensive minded head coach, you mentioned the 2 guys that you guys like, right? Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. Those guys rack up the sacks, and you have other guys that can definitely contribute to that sack total as a team. So I think that's a great look at 17-1. I think a lot of the focus this season should be on the defensive side for the Texans because they have all the guys on the offensive side for this team. But if they're going to win ball games, it's going to have to be on the defensive side. So I think for those 2 guys and getting contributions from other guys, I think that's a great bet at 17-1 for this team.
Yeah, I'm added that to my sheet.
Last year they had 46 sacks.
What was the leader
in the 17 games? The leader was 60, but we handicapped this a bit when we were talking about Saxonville, and generally you're going to target around 54 to 57 in the range of like if you can access that ceiling, then you have a chance to win. Last year, Ravens 60, Chiefs 57, Dolphins 56, which people don't exactly remember them as a team.
No, that's crazy.
Bills 54, Colts 51. So top 5 already got down to 51 sacks, 46 last year for the Texans. I would co-sign that. I would play that over identifying a player, I think. Because I do.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I see that's that price, I will. Yeah, Will Anderson most sacks. I'll replace it with the Texans most.
Because you can
sacks.
scoop that. You can. I mean, the Ravens didn't have a Defensive Player of the Year award candidate. I know they had I mean, maybe he got a 5th place vote or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the idea that the team can collectively do it seems more reasonable to me than one of those guys standing up and outdoing like a Max Crosby or a Bosa or a TJ Watt.
Yeah, I like the 17-1. I'll add it to my card. Are you co-signing that, Ryan?
Yeah, that's the angle I would.
Okay. Munaf, what do you got futures wise? What do you like? What do you not like? It's tough for me to touch any of the receivers, even though I am a bit of a Diggs hater. like, I don't know. I think you're kind of playing with fire unless, and even the long shot stuff like Tank Dell to lead the division in receiving yards. It's not quite high enough to be interesting. What are you doing
really,
here?
There's nothing fun.
Munaf.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Stefon Diggs, right? I mean, it's a little bit square, but his number only being at 900.5 as receiving yards, kind of being in a contract year. I mean, essentially it is a contract year because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And those are the type of guys you want to take the overs on their player props for season long, at least. But he's had 6 straight seasons where he's gone over this number. I understand that he was the number 1 target with Minnesota and then with Buffalo. And you have Nico Collins. You guys mentioned Tank Dell. Don Schultz should have more targets in this offense as well. But for a guy that we know that can, catch those deep passes, make even short passes to create that separation and get down the field, I think that it's in the realm of possibility again, 100%, not 100%, but more likely than not that Stefon Diggs gets over 900.5 receiving yards for this Texans offense.
I like how you have it as 100%. So lockdown Munaf's 100% play. Stefon Diggs over 900.5 receiving yards.
And he's gone over this number, 7 out of the 9 seasons in his career. So, I mean,
for my underdog play, I'll go because I think you can get this. He can get this in a number of scenarios. CJ Stroud higher 4,200.5 passing yards. If they
that.
What's up?
I said I'll book that.
You don't think he's getting the passing yards? Because I think even if you're right, Ryan, and they are struggling a little bit, I think them playing from behind would even increase their pass rate over
him playing the whole season, passing. I mean, but like last year there definitely were some big games in there, and I think there's
he got to 4108 in 15 games. 15 games. So. Yeah. I like his chances 4,200.5.
470 yard, 5 touchdown game in there. So I mean, which did happen, but some outliers. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it. What's your underdog play, Ryan?
I don't want to throw shade at the guest, so I'll go to the backup play.
Oh, were you gonna take the Steph Diggs lower?
Yeah, but we'll move on. I'll say something positive. Dalton Schultz, give me the touchdown market. It's 3.5. This is still a Shanahanian offensive scheme, and there's nothing they like more than using the tight end around the red zone. Last year he had 5 touchdowns. Year before with Dallas he had 5. Year before that he had 8. Hard to see him going down beneath 3.5. Certainly will be one of the targets in the red zone, even though they brought in Diggs, and even though maybe Tank Dell stays. I like how everyone's like, this year Tank Dell is going to crush it when he stays healthy. It's like he is a small guy.
Yeah,
like
and that's why I was gonna
7-on-7 crazy.
I was gonna consider. He's like 5'8". I mean, I could probably block Tank Dell. Actually, I could 100%.
I don't know if you saw the viral video of the speedster Worthy over on Kansas City just getting jacked up in like press coverage by a safety. It was just like, oh no. Yeah,
people forget that yes, they have certainly relax the rules on how much you can hit, or tighten the rules on how much you can hit, but
you can still
these guys still get a little get chucked around there. Yeah, and the Tank Dell, like him staying healthy and has a crazy upside season, like the price isn't juicy enough for me to even get in there. Munaf, you got a underdog season long you like for Texans here?
I mean, as much as I hate being a pessimistic, I think you guys are correct about the turnover luck that the Texans and CJ Stroud had last season. I know we were talking offline about it. Like the first 5 games, no interceptions for CJ Stroud. The last 5 games, no interceptions. He had that one game where he did throw 3. If they are going to be pass happy, and look, if Joe Mixon does get hurt, there's still question marks about the depth for this Texans the running back room, right? From what I'm reading and everything that I've saw out of training camp and practice, Cam Akers could be that second guy. We know his fumbling issues. So we might see a little bit of more pass happy offense. The attempts are going to be there for CJ Stroud. I would go higher, unfortunately, on his interceptions.
CJ Stroud, what do you see his number at, or are you just saying in general?
I think just in general, but let me see.
Dun, dun, dun. I think they got his number at like
11 or no.
No,
sorry,
I think it's like 9.5.
Yeah, it's low. It's because I mean that's how you can get that 40-1 price.
Yeah, it's got to be what 8.5 interceptions.
Yeah, let me see. I think
Also, shout out to Swagger Hound in the chat, pointing out Cade Stover getting some looks. I've been here a little. I've been hearing a little Cade Stover buzz. Ryan, Cade Stover, first touchdown will be on my list, 100%.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, again, if you're not looking at a depth chart and familiarizing yourself with the third string, the fourth, I mean, who can forget Quentin Tarantino down there, the fourth string tight end. Dalton Keene is on this team still, former Hokie, who kind of more of a move tight end. Certainly would like the kind of guy that fits into this scheme if he makes the team.
Cade Stover getting some red zone looks.
But Brevin
Cade Stover,
honestly,
touchdown.
The guy you need to like Brevin Jordan is the guy on this team. That's like the Isaiah Likely option. A lot of good tight ends on this team, though. It's a very, very fun team to analyze the tight ends. And you got a fullback, Andrew Beck. So familiarize yourself with all these blocking touchdown hounds.
Yeah, those are the guys that you get the sweet juicy odds and still have a shot to come in and hit. Taking a look here at the records, I'm the only believer in the Texans at 10-7. Just got them over. Munaf and Kramer got them 9 and 8. I like CJ Stroud higher passing yards. Dalton Schultz higher 3.5 receiving touchdowns for Kramer. Munaf hating on his own team. Higher 9.5 interceptions. He does like Stefon Diggs over 900.5 receiving yards. Texans most sacks. We all like courtesy of Easy in the chat. That's a fun play. And yeah, so no. You don't think at 9 and 8 do they make the playoffs? Munaf?
It's 9 and 8. We're winning the Super Bowl, guys. Come on, I know how it goes.
All right, now he's changing his tune.
Well, there was a team from New York that once made the playoffs as a wild card with only 9 wins and went on to defeat one of the greatest franchise in the history of football.
Who was it?
That
Ryan?
was the Giants.
okay.
Maybe a different team. It reminds me of that a little. I could see how that could. Although Eli was clearly a better quarterback than CJ Stroud.
Wow, shots fired.
One's in the Hall of Fame soon.
Munaf, explain to people Propcast. Why should they be checking it out? Why should they be subscribing if they haven't already?
Great example on the show when we talked about whether you should play Defensive Player of the Year or you should play the sacks market. We dissected that and we talked about the Defensive Player of the awards market, but not to toot my own horn, 33-5 on unders for the first 3 seasons for season long player props. So we're right in the midst of season long player props right now, going by division. We just wrapped up AFC North, just got that posted. So 3 down, 5 more to go. And then before we know it, gentlemen, we'll be here for the regular season talking about weekly player props and also a primetime game. So go ahead and wherever you do get your pods, Apple, Spotify, look for us on YouTube as well. Just put in the Propcast. You'll see my pretty face and my co-host Chris there as well.
I can also inform you, Sean, that Munaf and an unnamed co-host, probably named Lante, will be the pregame show to our pregame show.
Oh, the pregame show. I like it.
This Sunday football season. So you get a little late action with Munaf, early morning. Listen to all the bullshit, all the props.
Let's go, Munaf, the Machine Manji.
Smash!
That subscribe button.
Thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
For the Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, second the money green. He's Ryan.
I still love you, Houston.
Kramer. Let it ride.